The bet was cruel but simple. Sarah couldn't even deadlift what the big guys use for warm-up sets. But when flames trapped 3 unconscious bodybuilders, she would carry all 750 pounds of them to safety in one terrifying rescue. This story begins at Iron Temple Gym in downtown Detroit, Michigan, a hardcore bodybuilding sanctuary where serious muscle was worshipped and weakness was mocked without mercy. The facility attracted the city's most dedicated mass monsters, men who lived, breathed, and bled iron. Sarah Mitchell, 28 years old, had been working there as a sports nutritionist for 2 months. Standing 5'6" and weighing 140 pounds, she looked like a child among giants. Her job was simple: create meal plans, track macros, and stay invisible while the real athletes trained. But what these muscle-bound titans didn't know was that beneath Sarah's unassuming exterior lay the heart of a warrior who had dominated the strongest women on earth. The gym's hierarchy was brutally clear. At the top sat Marcus the Mountain Rodriguez, 6'4" and 280 pounds of pure muscle, 3-time state bodybuilding champion with an ego to match his massive frame. His lieutenants included Derek "Tank" Williams, 260 pounds of intimidation, and Big Jim Morrison, whose 290-pound physique made him the unofficial king of the powerlifting section. "Look at little Sarah over there," Marcus announced during his chest workout, voice dripping with condescension. "Trying to tell real athletes what to eat when she probably can't even bench press the bar." Derek laughed while loading another plate onto his barbell. "Yesterday, she suggested I try a different protein timing strategy. Lady, I've been building muscle since before you knew what a gym was." Big Jim, always ready to escalate any situation, decided to make things interesting. "You know what? Let's settle this once and for all. Sarah, get over here." Sarah looked up from her nutrition charts, sensing trouble but maintaining her professional composure. "Yes, Jim? We're going to have ourselves a little demonstration," Big Jim announced loud enough for the entire gym to hear. "You've been giving us advice about strength and muscle building for 2 months. Time to put your money where your mouth is." A crowd began gathering, drawn by the prospect of entertainment at Sarah's expense. This was Iron Temple's favorite sport, humiliating anyone who didn't belong in their testosterone-fueled kingdom. "What did you have in mind?" Sarah asked calmly, though her heart rate was already climbing. Marcus stepped forward with a predatory grin. "Simple bet. You deadlift what I use for my warm-up set. 225 pounds. If you can't even manage that, you admit you have no business giving advice to real lifters." "And if I can?" Sarah replied, surprised by her own boldness. Derek snorted. "Won't happen. But if by some miracle you pull it off, we'll actually listen to your nutrition suggestions without laughing." Sarah studied the barbell loaded with 225 pounds. It was a weight she could handle in her sleep, but revealing that would raise questions she wasn't ready to answer. For 2 months, she'd successfully hidden her true capabilities, preferring to help through knowledge rather than physical demonstration. "Deal," she said simply. The crowd grew larger as words spread through the gym. Sarah Mitchell, the tiny nutritionist, was about to attempt a deadlift that most casual gym members couldn't even budge. The entertainment value was too good to miss. Sarah approached the barbell, and something subtle shifted in her demeanor. Her stance widened slightly, her grip adjusted to a position that spoke of years of technical refinement, and her breathing fell into a rhythm that suggested this wasn't her first time under serious weight. "This is going to be embarrassing," someone whispered from the crowd, but Sarah was no longer listening to the commentary. Her mind had shifted into a zone that was familiar and comfortable, the mental space where strength was measured, limits were tested, and victories were earned through pure determination. She gripped the bar, took a deep breath, and pulled. The weight came up smoothly, too smoothly. Sarah realized her mistake immediately. She'd lifted it with the fluid ease of someone who deadlifted twice that weight regularly. The crowd's expected laughter never came. Instead, there was confused silence. "Huh," Marcus said, clearly surprised. "Lucky lift." But that was still only... His words were cut off by the piercing shriek of fire alarms throughout the building. The gym's lighting shifted to emergency red as sprinkler systems activated. Through the windows, smoke was visible rising from the building's lower level. What had started as cruel entertainment was suddenly a life-threatening emergency. "Everyone out," Marcus shouted, his leadership instincts overriding his ego. "Move to the exits now." Chaos erupted as 60 gym members rushed toward the 2 exit doors. The crowd bottlenecked immediately, panic spreading faster than the smoke now creeping under the main door. "The stairwell's blocked," Derek yelled from near the east exit. "Smoke's too thick. West exit's the same." Big confirmed, coughing violently. The temperature was rising rapidly. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as the sprinkler system fought a losing battle against flames that were spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. That's when it happened. Marcus, Derek, and Big Jim, three men who had spent years building their bodies into monuments of strength, began collapsing one by one. The combination of smoke inhalation and panic overwhelmed their systems. Marcus dropped first, his massive frame hitting the floor like a fallen tree. Derek followed seconds later, unconscious before he hit the ground. Big Jim, trying to help his friends, succumbed to the toxic air and joined them on the floor. 750 pounds of unconscious muscle lay trapped in a burning building, while 60 terrified people pressed toward exits that were rapidly becoming unusable. Sarah looked at the three men who had been mocking her just minutes earlier. They were going to die. Everyone was going to die unless someone acted immediately. The emergency exit window was their only option, a fourth-floor drop to the fire department's safety net below. But first, someone had to get the unconscious men to that window. Sarah made a decision that would reveal everything she'd been hiding. She walked to Marcus first, all 280 pounds of him. The crowd watched in stunned silence as this 140-pound woman squatted down, positioned herself properly, and stood up with the massive bodybuilder draped across her shoulders in a perfect fireman's carry. The gasps were audible, even over the fire alarms. Sarah moved toward the window with controlled, powerful steps. Her legs, which had lifted world record weights, carried Marcus's unconscious form without visible strain. She reached the window and carefully passed him through to the firefighters waiting below. Derek was next. 260 pounds of dead weight, but Sarah's approach was methodical and efficient. She'd done this before, not in fires, but in competitions where every ounce of strength mattered. Her technique was flawless, her strength undeniable. As she carried Derek to safety, someone in the crowd whispered, "Who the hell is she?" Big Jim represented the greatest challenge, 290 pounds and awkwardly positioned near equipment that blocked easy access. Sarah had to squat low, adjust her grip, and execute a lift that defied everything the watching crowd thought they knew about human capability. When she stood with Big Jim secure on her shoulders, the entire gym fell silent, except for the crackling flames and blaring alarms. This wasn't just strength. This was superhuman performance under the most extreme pressure imaginable. Sarah delivered Big Jim to safety and turned back to the crowd of people, still trapped inside the burning building. "The window," she commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Everyone out, now!" Her tone had completely changed. Gone was the quiet nutritionist who accepted their mockery. This was the voice of someone accustomed to life or death situations, someone who knew how to lead when everything was falling apart. The evacuation proceeded smoothly under Sarah's direction. She was the last person out of the building, ensuring that every single member of Iron Temple Gym survived the fire that would completely destroy the facility. Outside, as paramedics worked on the three unconscious bodybuilders, the questions began. "Sarah," Marcus wheezed as he regained consciousness. How did you carry me? That's impossible." Sarah looked down at the man who had been humiliating her just an hour earlier. He was genuinely confused, his entire worldview shattered by what he'd witnessed. "Marcus, what's the heaviest deadlift you've ever seen performed by a woman?" "I don't know. Maybe 400 pounds by some powerlifter?" Sarah nodded. "The women's ord is 683 pounds. I hold that record." The silence was deafening. Derek, still coughing but alert, stared at her in disbelief. "You're saying you're a world record holder?" "Multiple world records," Sarah confirmed. "Deadlift, squat, total. I competed for 6 years on the international strongwoman circuit. Won the world's strongest woman competition 3 times before retiring last year." Big Jim, supported by paramedics, found his voice. "Why didn't you tell us? Why let us mock you for 2 months?" Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Because I wanted to see if you could respect knowledge and expertise without needing to be intimidated by physical superiority. I wanted to know if you were mature enough to learn from someone without needing them to prove their dominance first." The harsh reality of her words hit home immediately. "We were complete jerks," Marcus admitted, shame evident in his voice. "We judged you based on size instead of knowledge. And when it mattered," Derek added, "when our lives were literally on the line, you saved us. All of us." Sarah looked around at the 60 gym members who owed their lives to her hidden strength. "Strength isn't about how much you can lift to impress people. It's about being able to use your capabilities when others need you most. The fire chief approached Sarah as the investigation began. "Ma'am, what you did in there was extraordinary. Carrying 3 unconscious men that size. I've never seen anything like it." "Just doing what needed to be done," Sarah replied simply. 6 months later, Iron Temple Gym reopened in a new location, with Sarah Mitchell as head strength coach. The culture had changed completely, from a place that worshipped size and mocked weakness, to a facility that celebrated improvement and respected appearance regardless of appearance. Marcus, Derek, and Big Jim became Sarah's most dedicated students, learning not just about physical strength, but about the character required to use that strength selflessly. They erected a plaque near the entrance. "Strength is not measured by what you can lift, but by who you're willing to carry." Sarah often reflected on that day, when cruel entertainment became life or death reality. Thanks for watching Hidden Valor. If this story inspired you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that real strength is measured not by what we can do, but by what we choose to do when others need us most. Let's keep celebrating the hidden heroes who prove their worth through action, not words.